We're going to do something a little bit different for this leg of the tour. So we're on Miami Grand Prix next, and there's kind of a reason why I'm doing something different here. Because one of the things that we like to do in previous episodes is that we like to look at the history. We like to look at any incredible storylines, anything special that's happened with the circuit, and if it's one that's gone down, is there a reason why? Was there a negative effects? Everything like that. We can't quite do that for Miami. The first thing is that talking about history is a track that's been around for 4 years, not really got a history. And then you look at the actual 4 years in which Miami was it has been part of the calendar, and there's not really any great storylines. I suppose you could look at Lando Norris's first win, Piastri winning this year, maybe Verstappen going from, I think it was ninth on the grid, to winning the race. But let's face it, Miami has come on at a time when Formula One seems to be at its least enjoyable at the moment, so it's getting a bit of a bad press in that. And again, in terms of like character and history and everything like that, it's a street circuit and it feels very cold. And then in terms of like, are there any negatives about it? Well, of course there are. That you're going to see lots of memes and everything like that with regards to the situation of that it might be cheesy having the paddock in the Hard Rock Stadium, or the fake harbour, which kind of just makes it look a little bit pathetic. So we can't do that. But we still can provide an interesting storyline. And this is the other way in which we're going to be a bit different here. Because rather than going through slides and pictures and talking about that side of things, we're only going to be looking at one thing. And weirdly, that's Google Maps. We are going to be using Google Maps as part of our tour here. Because I suppose the best way of describing Miami, of making it a bit more of a positive outcome, is it's making the best out of a bad idea. I remember Miami being spoken about in such a way years before it being on the calendar. Lewis Hamilton talking good about it, in the years to come and everything like that. And it was almost like Miami Grand Prix was given off as an idea before anyone really thought, how are we going to do it? And that sort of gives a really good indication as to the challenges that have been brought about by bringing the Miami Grand Prix. Let me explain a bit further. So, a lot of circuits, good circuits that we've seen, even though they are named in being in a place, they aren't actually in that place. A good example of that is Shanghai. The Chinese Grand Prix isn't actually in Shanghai, it's in the outskirts of Shanghai, in the area of Shanghai. And others are similar to that. They can't put it in the city. Of course they can't. There's a city there, so they'll put it in the outskirts. Could they do that with Miami? Not really. Let's start zooming in on Miami a little bit further, and you'll start to see exactly why there is such a problem in regards to Miami. We've got national parks, we've got swamps, we've got wildlife reserves on the outskirts of Miami. A real challenging place to put a track anywhere, because ultimately it's protected areas. Plus the idea of having alligators at each corner. I mean, it adds a bit of excitement, but also adds a bit of danger when it comes to AI. And interesting enough, there was one place that was being considered for the Miami Grand Prix before they came across the solution, which was a place called Dodge Island, basically. It's on the port of Miami. So this was originally where it's going to be, and I sort of like the idea of maybe having a Formula One track. But again, we're coming up with another problem. This is not just a uh, bit of land where they can put a track down and it's all good. This is a working port. How are they going to make good of this? This isn't exactly a tourist area. And again, how do you get so many people at a Grand Prix? There's a lot of messy ideas that came across when it came to the Port Miami. But again, this is almost like they came up with this idea of the Miami Grand Prix before it really came about. So where did they go? They ended up going to Hard Rock Stadium. And to be quite honest, that was the only place where they could really put it. There has been tracks at Miami in the past, but that's been, I think, the maximum we've had is Formula E. And I want to really focus on this a little bit more in terms of actually what we are looking at in terms of Miami itself. Now, I cannot even begin to remember where the Hard Rock Stadium is. This is, I feel like it was south. Do you know what? Let's just search it. Hard Rock Stadium. There we go. And this is where we really start to see a bloody impressive feature when it comes to Miami. Because here is, I wanted to almost show the car park, but I couldn't show the car park, right? We've had, I think it's one Grand Prix ever held at a car park. Wasn't a good idea. Didn't work out. It was a bit bland. It was a bit meh. I won't talk about it in too much detail. I'm sure it'll be a later episode of the tour. But this could have gone wrong. They could have made it a boring loop. They could have made it multiple things. But actually, credit to Miami, they've done impressive considering the limits of what they've had. So, fair play there. And actually, I want to talk a bit about the Hard Rock Stadium here because, as you can see, it's not just Formula One they do here. They do tennis tournaments here. They do, obviously, the NFL. They do college football. This is a haven. It's a haven of sport. And you look at actually imagining the logistics of trying to get this all sorted. They've got to lift and tear this up and then put it back down again and then pop a court down now and take the court away. There's a lot of thinking here. I mean, look at this particular area here. This is part of a track, but it's also got to be part of the natural car park. It's got to be part of the tennis courts for the Miami Open. A lot of thinking here. And then, obviously, we've got this track here. Where on earth do they park? They've got one place where they can park for this. There's a lot of thinking that's gone into this. And actually, I've got to say, credit to Miami. They've put down a decent track considering everything. Was it to the extent where it should have been extended? I'm not so sure, but fair play. Fair play. And I think this is the thing that I wanted to talk about most of all. This is going to be a shorter video than the rest of them, I know, because it's really hard. Again, it's really hard to find storylines. It's really hard to find history for a track that has got no history and got no storylines as of yet. But for a street track, it's quite open, right? And we can moan about the cringe of having a harbour that's not real, of having a grid walk where the celebrities on there seem to be more interested about promoting Miami than actually talking about Formula One, or the drivers' entrances, which I get it's part of American culture to celebrate individuals, but it's very hard to enjoy that side of things, especially when the drivers, apart from any American drivers, don't seem to enjoy that limelight that much, a la Sergio Perez for the Las Vegas Grand Prix and all that. But all that aside, all that culture clash aside, all that cringeworthiness aside, I do think it's important that we count our blessings here. Because given history that's happened in the past, we were at risk of not having a US Grand Prix at all. In fact, I think for 2 or 3 years, we didn't have a US Grand Prix. Formula One, due to multiple different reasons, whether that be poor tracks, poor layouts, poor politics, anything like that, we killed off US interest in Formula One. So the fact that we have a Miami Grand Prix, amongst others, is something to celebrate. And whether that be down to Drive to Survive, whether that be down to just the fun of other American Grand Prix that have happened in recent times, they got to celebrate this. This is the win that Bernie Ecclestone wanted way back in the past. And yeah, fantastic. And yeah, is it the most exciting track? Not really. Is it the most enjoyable track to watch? Possibly not. I suppose it's a spectacle. But it's not a stick in the mud either. It's not like the standout worst Grand Prix of the year or anything like that where it's absolutely terrible. If I was to make one change, I would love to see the track go through the Hard Rock Stadium itself. However, I can imagine that safety-wise, that could be a bit of an issue. But yeah, I'd like to see maybe a little bit more of that. And maybe they can do something to develop the track further to make it a bit more exciting, to add a bit more character to it. But fair play. They have made the best of a bad situation, considering how congested, how tight, how lavish and rich and expensive this place is. So it would have been really hard to, kick anybody out, let's say. Short of building a track in the sea and on a plinth, almost like some video games, they'd have struggled. So fair play to making a fairly decent purpose-built track that, yeah, maybe not the most exciting, but it's decent. So yes, I'm not always that. I don't enjoy Miami Grand Prix that much, but it's all right. And for the challenges that the organisers behind the Miami Grand Prix probably had, it's all right. Is actually a really big compliment for what they have done. So yeah, fair play. So I'm hoping to get a meatier Grand Prix than that one for the next one. So shall we find out which track's going to be next? Let's see. We are going to be getting Dallas. We've got Dallas. Sorry. I was talking about US Grand Prix that have gone wrong. I seem to remember this might be one of them. So, guys, take care of yourselves, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of your time. Feel free to like and subscribe if you can. And yes, come back next time when we start talking about Dallas Fair Park. Take care.